The opinions expressed in this show are the views of the host and not necessarily that of WTRW, 94.3 The Talker, or the Bold Gold Media Group.
The following presentation is brought to you by the host of the program, who is solely responsible for its content.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Make a Change. I'm your host, Terry Martin, along with my producer, Tom Jenkins.
Good afternoon, Terry.
Well, good afternoon, and I just am so happy to be here this week and to have a guest on our show who is AJ, the owner of Club Soda in Peckville. And today he's going to be talking about forgiveness. So with that, I would like to begin with, we started talking about your early age setback and what happened when you were 9.
First of all, Terry, thank you for having me on your show today. And I hope we can get some work done. Well, I'd like to start by saying early in my life, I had a setback with the loss of my father. I was 9 years old. And I was raised by a single mother, a very beautiful woman, passionate, hardworking, and a tremendous influence on my life.
He said she was a very strong female. And I wanted to know about that because sometimes I was single.
When I say that, she raised 3 children. When I lost my dad, I was 9 years old. My brother was 7 and my sister was 5. And she chose not to remarry for 17 years. And during that period, she worked as the head business secretary for the Mid-Valley Long-Term Care Center, raising 3 children and putting 3 children through college. I learned at a young age that she was a very hard worker, so my work ethic and my outlook on life is pretty much molded around her outlook and her values.
Well, what amazed me is you said that you had no idea that you didn't have a lot of money until you saw her income tax and how she put 3 children through college. I'm amazed by that. Well,
I think it was around my senior year at the University of Pennsylvania when I caught wind of my mom's tax return. And when I saw that, it struck me that this woman had made such sacrifices through the years for myself and my brother and my sister that I always felt I was a rich kid. I had everything. I always had a car, nice clothes. Went on vacation. I had no idea the sacrifice that my mother had done for the 3 of us.
And then so then you grew up after all that, you went to college, and it was on a academic and football scholarship, so you were a great football player.
Well, I excelled at football at Penn, and yes, I was partial academic and athletic scholarship. But while I was in college, I had also worked, and I worked at the campus bar as a bouncer and a bartender, and that was my first taste of the restaurant business.
So one thing you talked about was that it took you like the 4 years of college and you still were not sure what you wanted to be when you got out of college, because here you played football and that probably took so much of your time. I don't even know how you had time to think about what a future would be anyway, with the way you have to work so hard when you do get a scholarship at a college.
The balance of academics and football at an Ivy League school was a tremendous challenge. But as my friends all around me knew exactly what they wanted to do in life, I still had no idea after 4 years. So my mother remarried and moved to Connecticut. And when she did, it was in the early 80s or late 80s, I'm sorry. And she felt that the job market in Connecticut was excellent. So she invited me to move to Connecticut. And my house was always a place where I was welcome back. So if I had fallen on my rear end, it was always a safe harbor to come back to.
And at that point, the your stepfather, told you about a restaurant, did he?
Yes. I didn't want to live at home and not earn my keep. So one of the best skill sets that you take from the restaurant business is it's very transferable. You can move to anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country, and start a career, have some income by bartending or waiting on tables. My stepfather mentioned that a new restaurant had opened up in town called Fitzwilly's in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And I walked through the door and asked for a job. The owner, Tom McEwen, said, well, we really don't have any work for you. Most of the shifts are full, but if you'd like to work, I'll give you a shot on Monday night. So I took the job, and I began working. 2 weeks later, he fired the entire bartending staff.
Because he saw your good attitude.
Well, he saw my attitude, but I was also not taking the money from the registers as the other bartenders were.
Hey, you okay?
At that moment, he also approached me and asked me if I would like to manage his restaurant, and I...
Wait, in 2 weeks?
In 2 weeks.
Holy cow.
In 2 weeks. He needed a right-hand man.
See, it's in his blood.
He needed somebody that he could trust. And in the restaurant business, it's all consuming. You work, it's your life. People ask me, don't you work more hours than you ever did in your life? And I say, no, I don't. It becomes your life. You do it. You wake up. You enjoy it. You love it. It's not for everybody, but you can do it. This gentleman needed a break at 5 o'clock, and he wanted me to close his restaurant every single day. And that I did for 2 years, until one afternoon, my staff came to me and said, AJ, Table 5 wants to talk to you. And I said, is there a problem? And they said no. And when I walked over to the table, sitting there was the director and the training manager for Chili's in New England, a very popular franchise. Now, they had 15 units in New England, of which they were doing very poorly. And this visionary, Dennis Pedra, decided to buy these units and hire new managers. And what he did was he went around to all the local restaurants, cherry-picking all the managers. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. They offered me $10,000 raise if I would come on board with them immediately.
And at that time,
that was pretty good.
Sure.
Now, I knew I had to go to Tom and say, Tom, I'm giving you my notice. And when Tom saw me, he said, AJ, I knew one day you're going to outgrow me. I wish you well. Go on your journey.
That's a good businessman right there.
Very good guy. I owe him a lot. He broke me in, taught me a lot of the facets of the business and another level and another dimension of the restaurant business. Still didn't know the back of the house. But once I took the job with Chili's in New England, I went into the training program, which included everything from learning how to operate a dishwasher, change a fryer-later, up to Excel spreadsheets, operating a computer, staffing, hiring, firing, all facets of a restaurant business. So when I moved back to Pennsylvania, people said to me, well, how'd you learn about the restaurant business? And I said, well, I have no formal training, but I went through a management training in New England. And my friends and family that lived in Pennsylvania had no idea how extensive the training was. But while I was there, I ran into problems with management. I'm an aggressive guy. I do a great job when I'm coached well. And at one point, I wanted to be promoted to general manager. And at the time, general managers were 35 years old, and I was only 27. There was no way they were going to promote me. But yet I was doing the same job, running the same numbers, having the same performance qualities, and working just as hard as everyone else, and deserving the job. To shorten the story a little bit, I got frustrated. I was mad. I was angry.
Yeah, you told me you went from loving the business to despising it.
I swore I would never get into the restaurant business. Never. I took my keys and I dropped them in the blue cheese dressing and I walked out.
I want to paint a little picture first for our listeners. You have to see AJ. Okay, you've heard, okay, he was a bouncer, a football player. Thank goodness all he did was drop his key in the blue cheese.
I see where you're coming with that.
Thank you. So from there,
you moved back home.
My parents, yes.
Was that back home in Connecticut or Pennsylvania?
Nope, they moved back to Pennsylvania. Okay. Now, I stayed in Connecticut, and I love Connecticut. I love New England. A great place to live, great people. Took a lot of business lessons. In Connecticut, it's a little more competitive than it is in northeastern Pennsylvania. So again, another dimension to my business model. When my parents moved back, I was left in Connecticut. And every weekend and every holiday and every funeral and every wedding, I was always the guy that had to go back to Connecticut early while everybody stayed here in Pennsylvania. I had no real ties in Connecticut. So I decided to move back to Pennsylvania. And when I did, I ultimately, in the beginning of the story, said that I'd like to get into sales. And I had no real sales experience. I wanted to become a pharmaceutical rep. At the time, they were great jobs. So a friend of mine named Alan Sweeney, who worked for Schiff's Food Service, found out I was in town and looking for a sales job. Now, he knew the synergy between knowing the restaurant business and walking through the back door and being able to sell food to restaurant people. So my territory was from Wilkes-Barre to Waymart and everything in between. And I'm an aggressive guy. Aggressive, not physically aggressive. Right. Okay. That's called assault. So Alan was kind enough to give me a job with really no sales experience. And just my aggressiveness. Every bar, every restaurant, every cafeteria, every hotel, every hospital has food.
I don't know if I would even say aggressive. You have a great attitude. And so that sells.
And
they can just see that in you.
Thank you. From everything that you've been saying, you got that from your mother because you saw how hard she worked, and that's how you adopted it.
Excellent. That's exactly right.
In the story, you might wonder where the forgiveness part comes, but we're leading up to everything that it took for him to get to a certain point. So hang in there.
Yes, hang in there. So I spent 2 years at Schiff's Food Service, and I met my wife at Rascals in Dunmore.
I used to work at Rascals in Dunmore.
Great place. And I fell in love with her. She had worked for Talbot's in Clark Summit, where a woman who worked for her, named Judy Frassini, was the wife of the general manager at the Spring Division at Sandvik. And they were looking for a salesperson. So now I had 2 years of experience. I met Judy.
What you always wanted.
Yeah, I always wanted. This is where I'm going. I'm on my way now. This is my break. I got my break to go to Chili's. I got my break to work for Schiff's. I got my break to work for Sandvik. And every time I moved forward, I learned something and took with it for the future.
Yeah,
not knowing where I was going to launch myself. I had no idea. Just knowing that making an effort every day and continuing to do something every day would contribute to my future. Doing nothing yields nothing, obviously. But if you do something every day, whether you feel like you're moving forward one step or no steps, at least you've made an effort, and it adds up after a while. So I take a job with Sandvik. I get hired.
What about the hiring process when the resume got lost?
Well, on my way, my first interview with Sandvik, they had misplaced my resume, and I thought I had done very well, so I didn't get a phone call. All of a sudden, my phone rings. It's Sandvik, and they said, "We're a little embarrassed. We lost your resume. Can you drop one off?" And I was just going by the plant to go to Bingham's restaurant above Sandvik. I cut across the median illegally, turned around, drove up the Waverly exit, drove into the office, and slapped my resume down on a desk and called Pete Frazzini. And they just loved it. They were trying to hire from within. They couldn't find anybody who wanted the Midwestern United States as a territory. And I said, I'll do anything to just get on board. So my territory was from Texas to Minnesota and everything in between. Now, at the time, I had a wife, 2 children, a mortgage, a lot of responsibility, benefits, great job, but things weren't panning out for me. Management changed. Corporate life is a little ruthless, and I'm not a ruthless guy, except on a football field. The circumstances just got to the point where I was fed up, and I left Sandvik. And when I broke away from there one day, I came home and broke the news to my wife, and she lost it. What are we going to do now?
I can see that.
And I said, well, I'm a talented guy. We'll figure it out. A friend of mine was in the construction business, needed a right-hand man, fed up with guys, not showing up for work, DUIs, other sort of things that don't make you a reputable person, and he brought me on board with no experience at all.
Because he saw your bright outlook on life.
He saw my outlook.
Hold that thought. We got to take a quick break. I want to hear the construction story now. But we do got to play a quick spot. And when we come back, we're in the studio with AJ Sabastenelli here on Make a Change. And the show's all about forgiveness, but what we're doing first is we're building up to exactly how we can tie this in. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, AJ, I'm fascinated with this story. You have got my attention, and I don't want to take a break, but we have to.
Okay.
So stick around. You're listening to Make a Change on 94.3 FM, The Talker. We'll be right back. Maderi Clinicals, a unique skincare company, has a complete skincare line for men and women. From anti-aging to glycolic and even a clinical line for sensitive skin, Maderi Clinicals is for you. Their number one product? Forgiveness. It's the secret to younger looking and younger acting skin. You can experience the transformation with fewer wrinkles, firmer skin, and a more youthful, radiant complexion. Treat aging, sun damage, rosacea, and more with Forgiveness. Plus, buy one bottle of Forgiveness, get one lip enhancing complex for free. Forgiveness. Apply it morning and night and keep forgiving and forgetting all through the day. Make a change with Maderi Clinicals. Balance, restore, look, and feel new. Maderi Clinicals, a complete skincare company for men and women. Call 866-646-3374 or check out MaderiClinicals.com. MEDERI Clinicals.com. Welcome back to Make a Change on 94.3 FM, The Talker. I am Tom Jenkins, along with your host, Terry Martin. And our special guest in the studio today is AJ Sabastenelli from AJ's Club Soda, an American Grill at 1017 Main Street in Peckville. And we're hearing more or less right now just the beginnings of AJ's story. And the topic of the show today on Make a Change is forgiveness. You know, we talk a lot about making changes in every aspect of your life when it comes to financial changes, weight loss changes, attitude changes, you know, spiritual changes, whatever the case may be. And today you're going to see the buildup, and then you're going to hear the change. And I'm very, very much looking forward to this. Then the first segment we were talking about more or less how AJ started in life, I guess you can say. Not as a kid more per se, but, you know, as the adult, football player, bouncer, waiter, restaurant manager, then worked for this big company. The one thing that really struck me, AJ, was that no matter what it was you did, you put everything you had into it. You know, you did everything you had to do, and you were grateful most of the time you were doing it, and you didn't slack because you didn't like something. You know, I mean, how many of us? We all, you know, I don't want to go to work today. I don't want to deal with that today.
He did it all very happily.
Yeah.
And that's how his restaurant is when you go in there. Everyone's happy because it doesn't show. If he's having a bad day, I guess we can't tell that because you don't let it affect you now. Inside, but I'll let you go too.
So you're at a point now in your life where you just walked out of this humongous job because of management changes, corporate changes, and I can definitely attest with corporate. You know, I've worked for corporations, big, national, and I understand exactly where you're coming from on why you did what you did. I can sympathize and empathize with you. But now you just got hired with a construction company. You have absolutely no experience. But just your attitude, just your outlook on things, this man said, you know what, let's give you a shot. And that's where we left off. So
yes. So
because AJ never had it easy.
I never had it easy.
No.
And the work ethic from my mom and my grandparents and myself, my self-worth is my work ethic.
That's awesome.
Nothing else. I am nothing without it. That's just that's my outlook on it. And I have no real energy unless I'm doing something positive or at least making an effort, no matter what job it would be. But along the way, these people gave me a break. And as long as you continue to try, good things will happen from place to place to place to place. Somehow, some way, it does.
So no one should feel bad if they have left their job or, you know, it seems like there's a little string of jobs. You learn something from every one.
I took something from every single one. So from the construction business, not knowing anything, I wound up developing a little handyman service. I bought all the tools. I bought all the equipment that I needed to start it. And the gentleman who I worked for wasn't able to take the small jobs, so he would refer them out to me, little by little. No one wants to go to anyone's house to change out a ceiling fan or to add an electrical outlet somewhere where you'd need one or do some landscaping. So my book filled up, and I had a great little business running for 2 years. Now, my kid brother owns Smilers in Dixon City, and he'd been doing that for 5 years. He'd come to me and said, are you going to climb ladders in your 50s? Open up a restaurant. You'll do great. And the epiphany, it was like a bomb went off. That's what I'm going to do. And I started my hunt for a restaurant. I went into my hometown. I asked 3 people that were in the business whether they wanted to sell. As they started to talk to one another, each and every one of them wanted to get out of the business, and the price of their places kept coming down and down and down and down until I got to the point where I had my eye on the one that I wanted. And I'm not that smart to the point where I could orchestrate something like this, but this is how it went down. They went into a bidding war to the point where somebody made it so good that I had to bite, and I needed to bite and strike while the iron was hot. So now I have all the restaurant experience I need. I have all the construction experience I need to renovate my own restaurant. The sum total of all the jobs that I didn't like and liked all came down to one moment.
And this is where he went as a child. So this restaurant was extra special.
This was where we hung out. This was like the Rascals in Dunmore. This was the beer garden in Peckville. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew where this place was. So it came time to figure out how I'm going to get this place. My brother asked my grandmother to put her house up for collateral, and she did. 2 years later, my brother took her house off his loan, and he was on his way. Now it was my turn to ask my grandmother. She said no. Oof.
Yeah, it really hurt.
Because my marriage wasn't solid, and she was smart enough not to tie the business up and her home. That's all she had. I was heartbroken. I was distraught. I'm back on my rear end again. And I had my heart set on this place. Well, another great woman came into my life, and it was my mother-in-law. And she said, "Is this what you really want? Is this what you want? Will this make you happy?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "We'll put our house up for you." And that's how I got started.
Amazing.
I took my 401k, I liquidated it, I took the penalty, I took the money, I had a break, I asked, and the other thing is you have to ask people. You have to ask. It's not going to just be handed to you.
Right.
Ask. No might be the answer, but you have to ask. Yes might be the answer. In my wildest dreams, I didn't think she was going to say yes. So now, my wife and I, we start this business, year 1. And a train wreck happens. My marriage dissolves. And my dream of owning a restaurant is on the verge of just going down the toilet. And I'm angry. And I'm pissed off. And I can't believe this is happening to me. And this hatred overcomes me. I blindingly. I want bad things to happen. I want to do bad things. Mm-hmm. But I have so much on the line, and I promised this woman I would not screw her. Her house was on the line. It was her homestead. My ex-wife has a brother. He's tied up in the whole thing. There's nowhere for me to go. I have to go forward. I must go forward. There's no choice for me. This has to work. I cannot fail. At one point, I just wanted to take the keys and hand them to her and say, "I'm done."
Because you felt like you were standing on the edge of a cliff.
I was on the edge of a cliff, and my back was to the hole. Thank God I didn't do it, because yesterday I celebrated my 10th anniversary. Now,
congratulations.
Thank you. It's a pretty good milestone.
Mm-hmm. That is a good milestone.
So now I carry this hatred with me for 7 years. I'm talking wake up every day, figure out first thoughts in my head. Man, I can't wait for something bad to happen to them, to them, to them. I can't, I'm just consumed by it to the point of where it's affecting my life.
A crippling resentment.
It is. And you don't know it's there. It's still there. My friend, anger, he's hanging out with me every day. Mm-hmm. Yet I keep my chin high, and I don't let a lot of people really know that. But in my own personal journey, it's holding me back. And, it took me 7 years to come to the point where I could just say, "I forgive you."
Now, how were you living in those 7 years? Obviously, you were waking up every morning full of the resentment, full of the anger, full of the rage. But 7 years, like how were you going day by day with all that rage? How were you handling it at that time?
It appears you had some friends along the way that
I had some strong friends, And I had some strong family that watched me in the beginning, because in the beginning it was really bad. You didn't want to be around me because all I wanted to talk about was smashing and making a mess. Bad. And I was bringing everybody else down. Nobody wanted to be around me. All I wanted to talk about was hatred. And who wants to, you suck the life out of people when you do that, not knowingly.
Right.
So now after 7 years, well, what helped me was my restaurant that I focused on, my life now kept me busy, and my customers and my clients and the success of my restaurant slowly came out of the hole. That's what kept me going.
And we were joking about Cheers earlier, but to be in the situation you were in, and then to have or many customers and clients come in, they sit there and then they tell you all their problems. So that must have been...
Well, it was helpful. It was helpful to, along the way, I shared my story and my information and my struggle with my customers, and I've influenced several people in their divorces, both men and women. And I'm not one-sided on my opinion of what to do, but when it comes to the hatred and the waste of energy, I'm embarrassed to say it took so long. I beat myself up now, thinking, well, why did it take so long? Well, I think in everybody, it's your own personal timeline, depending on how severely you were damaged. If you're hurt bad enough, it'll take a while. It's easy to say, well, I forgive you. You hurt me. You betrayed me. You did awful things to me. But to be able to say I'm sorry right after that and forgive is not easy to do. But when it happens, one of the most powerful things you'll ever feel is to be able to wake up and say, I forgive you. I'm done. I can no longer do this anymore. I cannot carry this weight around. It's a total waste. And how I got to the point, a friend of mine started talking about the book, The Secret. And basically he said, what you put into the universe comes back to you. And I thought for a second, wow, man, I haven't been putting a lot into the universe, man. I've been taken.
Yeah.
And I've been taken from it and expecting things to happen to me, not knowing that I'm holding myself back. And I decided to pick up the phone and call my ex-wife and say, listen, I forgive you. Out of the clear blue sky. I practiced a couple of days beforehand, wondering what it would be like.
To be free again.
To be free again. To have the freedom to not have this burden on myself anymore, but not knowingly also doing damage to my children and myself physically and affecting every aspect of my life. So now I no longer have that. And I made a list of other people who I had hatred for. And I slowly started cleaning it up. Friends, acquaintances, other people. It started breeding on itself. And it started to feel really good because I wasn't looking for apologies. I was just telling you, I don't hate you anymore. I really forgive you. I forgive you. And the look in their eyes is the strangest thing because they know they've done something. They don't have to say they're sorry. They now have to live with whatever that is. See, I'm back in your life. You have to figure out what you have to do. Maybe that's the spark that'll help you. You can find your own, you know what I mean? And I wasn't, they'd start to apologize and I'd say, no, I don't, if you want to, that's fine. But let's rehash the sour grapes and the rest of the trauma that we went through. There's no need for that.
It sounds like a very valuable lesson here. A gentleman had said this to me one time because I was always infamous for, Tom, you really need to forgive this. Well, they're not sorry. How the hell should I forgive them? They're not sorry. And he finally said it to me the one. He goes, dude, you don't forgive for them. You forgive for you. Whether they're sorry or not. If you don't forgive for you, bad things are going to happen. And that's exactly what it sounds like here is that you're not forgiving for them. They are who they are. It is what it is on that end. But you saw that you had to do something or some thought popped into your head or whatever the case was. And you forgave these people for you. so you can move forward, so you can. And I love how Terry used the word free, because free is very, so many people don't understand, and I speak from personal experience, that the chains and the bondage that we suffer is of our own making. We do it to ourselves, with resentment, with anger, with rage, with, you used a really good word, AJ, expectations. And I always say expectations are just premeditated resentments. If I have an expectation, guess what? I'm probably going to get resentful if I don't get it. And we always do it to ourselves. So when we forgive, we have to forgive for ourselves, which is exactly what you did, correct?
Yes.
Right. No matter how much good food you eat and all those things you do to take care of yourself, if your mind is just so unsettled because of that forgiveness. And I liked what he said about bothering, or he felt he was bothering all of his family and friends with that same old story, let it go.
Grind.
That's what I did too. And if I could go back and stop, if I could have stopped myself, and maybe this show is helping someone who might be going through that right now. And if you can just understand that those people really can't help you. And I actually got to a point one time in my life that, thank God, when you finally do realize that they can't help you, it's within. It's like the weight on our bodies, or the smoking the cigarettes. It's in our own mind, and it has to come out. Just like the pounds have to come off. And then you're light.
We're going to take one more, a couple more quick breaks, but first one right now. When we come back, I want to hear more about the forgiveness, the build up to this, and how it has impacted your life positively and negatively also. So you are listening to Make a Change with your host, Terry Martin. I am Tom Jenkins, and we'll be right back after this quick break. Mederi Clinicals, a unique skincare company, has a complete skincare line for men and women. From anti-aging to glycolic and even a clinical line for sensitive skin, Mederi Clinicals is for you. Their number one product? Forgiveness. It's the secret to younger looking and younger acting skin. You can experience the transformation with fewer wrinkles, firmer skin, and a more youthful, radiant complexion. Treat aging, sun damage, rosacea, and more with Forgiveness. Plus, buy one bottle of Forgiveness, get one lip enhancing complex for free. Forgiveness. Apply it morning and night and keep forgiving and forgetting all through the day. Make a change with Mederi Clinicals. Balance, restore, look, and feel new. Mederi Clinicals, a complete skincare company for men and women. Call 866-646-3374 or check out MederiClinicals.com. MEDERI Clinicals.com. Welcome back to Make a Change on 94.3 FM The Talker. Your host, Terry Martin here. I am Tom Jenkins, and our special guest today, AJ Sabastenelli from AJ's Club Soda, 1017 Main Street in Peckville, and hearing a fascinating story about, the I don't even want to say coming of age for you, AJ, but, taking different jobs, putting everything you have into everything you do, and then getting it taken away from you. And going in, and AJ talked the story about, it was taken away, and he got rageful and angry and resentful, and for 7 years lived in that bondage of anger and rage. And then one day finally realized, there was one thing I want to come back to this. This actually was really neat. When you said you were sharing this story with your patrons of your restaurant, and you were helping them, they were helping you. It sounded like one of the best forms of group therapy. Yeah. And if it wasn't for your patrons, God only knows what would have happened. But, that just taught me that, I personally can't do everything alone. I want to. My man pride says, yes, I got this, but I can't. I need people in my life, no matter who they are. And I need these people to learn from. I need to learn what to do. I need to learn what not to do by watching and by learning. And you had said something during the break about learning from these people that you forgave. You used a treadmill line. What was the treadmill?
Well, you find yourself on a treadmill, and you can't get off, and it's in the beginning you don't even know you're on it, and then suddenly you're trapped, and you have nowhere to go, and whether that contributed to my decision for that break moment that allowed me to free myself again, to get off of it. I'm not really aware of it. Time is a factor of this situation, and everybody's.
You know what?
Distance is different.
When you come into AJ's restaurant, you can just see it really is like a family. Maybe all the years you shared with them and they shared with you, they are like your family when they come in. But it's funny, you could be an outsider like myself, and you don't feel, it's just one big happy family, close. It's just really cool. Nice experience.
I'm glad you like the atmosphere and the energy of my place. Even though hate was sucking the life out of me, I still had a large portion of it that I could give back to the public and the customers sincerely. It's exhausting every day.
You gave your love to them.
It's exhausting every day to sincerely say hello and goodbye and how was everything. And you have to do it if you're going to be successful in the restaurant business, and it has to be believable and sincere. Now, having all of that hate, I really couldn't give the full, the beam that I wanted to cast. And now that it's over, it seems like there's such a difference with the relationships and the people who come in and my outlook. And I'm no longer talking about the negativity and what's holding me back. It's all about moving the restaurant forward. We want to open up a new dimension in the restaurant. We want to bring some Southern barbecue to the place, some great ribs, brisket. And without that release from my hatred, I would have never, I don't think I would have started the development of a new chapter of my restaurant. So
you would have been stuck.
I would have been stuck, and then the complacency sets in, and the next thing you know, your restaurant hits the tank, and there's no coming back. Once you put your foot on the gas when you start a restaurant, you can never take your foot off. Once you lose that momentum, it becomes the beginning of the end.
And did you feel yourself losing that momentum?
At one point, I did. At one point, it was slowing down, and again, not knowing that part of the contribution to it was myself. It was me dragging it down, me not being able to hire the next brightest, bubbliest person, not me giving my best presentation to the public, not me doing the best I can for myself and my family and my friends.
Which is what you've been doing in all your life up to this point.
Up to this point.
Right.
Up to this point. And that period of time, most severe the first 4 years, not so severe the last 3 years of the journey. But yes, in fact, it who knows where I could have been. Not that, I'm second guessing myself. The good news is that I can start over and begin a whole new chapter. And it's kind of funny now, because when somebody says something to me, like offhanded, or they hurt my feelings, I say, I forgive you. And it's that quick. Quick.
It's
but
easy
when we
to
had
let
our
go.
interview,
And it's sincere.
I really liked what you said when you talked about it could be family members, it could be friends. When that best friend of yours that was anger came out, you said that you started treating these people like they had a disease.
Yes.
And that's the way you stayed away, or you treated them. And so now that you can see the difference, and that's
Well, hating somebody, I think I said earlier, you make it easy on them. You make it easy on them because you're alienating them from you. You're really not doing yourself any favor. You're actually
doing what they would really prefer you to do, maybe.
They're doing it. That's right. You're giving it. You're making it easy on them. So when you forgive them and they look at you, that strange look in their eyes, they're having to deal with it, which is not your responsibility. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say, "Oh man," it's almost like there's a no-win situation.
Well, if these kind of things have happened in your life, they've happened in mine, Tom's, they've already taken our joy. And if you continue to let them, they'll take your joy for the rest of your life. And you'll only get one life.
That's something you just said something very important that if you let them. And so many of us, myself included, used to think, okay, well, I'll have to control them so I can be happy because I'm not going to let them do this to me. No, I'm allowing myself to have it be done to me. I used to work with a gentleman many years ago, and the man was always smiling. And I looked at him and said, John, what the hell is wrong with you? Are you on drugs or something? You're always happy. He goes, well, I choose to be happy. I said, but I mean, your job position here, I mean, you got people yelling at you all day long. I said, and you still smile, and you never yell. You carry on conversations. I said, you've got to be medicated. He said, no. He goes, every morning I wake up and I choose to be happy today. And I'm not going to allow you. How did he put it? Oh, I was walking down the hall the one day, and he goes, what's the matter with you? I said, oh, fill in the blank, name, Jim, whatever. Jim really, oh, God, he pissed me off. He goes, no, he didn't. You allowed yourself to get angry. Hate you. And he was right. You know, if we let these people continue, if we let ourselves continue to be,
then we've really lost.
It really has nothing to do with anybody else but yourself.
Exactly.
It's your own. It really, that's when you look at yourself, take a hard look, and say, I'm doing it for me.
Mm-hmm. Don't you feel you even breathe better now?
I feel great.
I sleep.
And the sky is bluer. I mean, it's just you're
My
happy.
pillow is quieter.
And I'll tell you, I will empathize with you on that one. My pillow would not shut up either for many years. And this was a big change that I had to learn how to make as well. Yeah. And so making the changes, don't look at other people and what they're doing to you. Because they're not doing anything to you. They're doing it for them, and that's who they are, and that's none of your business.
I love what you're saying. You're saying make a change.
See how I kind of brought that right around.
But
into
it is.
You also said something, AJ, that really hit home for me is forgive. And we all hear the stupid saying, forgive and forget. Well, I can't forget. I don't want to forget. Can you go into more on that?
Well, sure. There's no way to not remember. It's a lesson learned. It's not a lesson to harbor. Mm-hmm. Of course, you don't want to make the same mistake twice. So the forgive and the forget part of it, it's not possible to just erase what's been done. The fact is that try not to make that same mistake again, and you make good choices. People you associate yourself with, the business choices you make, and other things like that. It's yourself that the hatred comes from your own pride, your own disappointment, you're beating yourself up. It all comes from within. It has nothing to do with anyone else. And as your choices become better, there's less hatred, there's less opportunity for it. And really, at the end of the day, you build your relationships with the people that you want to surround yourself that are the strongest, best people you can.
Which leads back to how important people really are in our lives. And, from everything that I've learned in my life, and I think you can attest to this too, AJ, is that even those people that have caused harm in my life, I've learned from.
I've actually taken pity on them.
I'm grateful that they did what they did, so I can now learn. What's the saying? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Well, I've also learned the fact that, lie to me once, I now know what kind of person you are. Lie to me twice, you now know what kind of person I am. So I got to make darn sure that I've learned something.
Well, there's a lot of cliches that go along with all of this, but another one is that does not kill you makes you stronger. I hated. I can't say that. I forgive myself. I hated that statement. I hated it. What do you mean? What do you mean? That which does not kill me makes me stronger. Well, man, it all of a sudden it's like it makes total sense. But these are the things that, in your 20s you may not get it. In your 30s, you may not get it. I'm 48 years old, and I'm just coming to the new chapter of my life.
You said you made a 180-degree
turn. You know what I mean? And it again, I don't know. I was talking to Terry at my restaurant. We started talking about, my story a little bit, and I talked to her a little bit about, what happened to me, and that I forgave my wife, and that was the moment that she, we hit it off and kind of connected on it. And when she invited me to your show,
I was so excited you said you would. I got in the car and I was still saying to my husband, I'm very surprised he's even going to come on, because it takes.
I was a little nervous, strength. I'll have to say, but I feel very comfortable today, and I'm glad to share this with anybody.
Well, we were talking about how you said now you're laughing more, you're actually giggling, and it's like a whole new spirit. It's a whole new power, because you said it was exhausting, and you drained yourself. You just drained yourself from feeling like that every day. When you think about that for 7 years, you must feel like you're almost out of jail.
Well, it's kind of like, it's a freedom. It definitely is. But as I said earlier, part of it is, looking at yourself and saying, how much time I wasted. I keep beating myself up now a little bit. I still got to, now I have to heal from this. I have to recover from my own, the world I trapped myself in. And now trying not to get myself trapped again. Just remain open and honest and try to, lead a clean life. And again, somebody betrays you or whatever. Again, it was a choice you made to associate yourself with them. It's not just a random act that this person's in your life. If you really look at it, they're there for a reason. You made a choice to associate yourself with them or make a decision or whatever happened. It's not really a random act.
And I'm sure there's times that we have done things. Just a little example. I was talking to someone the other day about someone pulling out in front of them with their car. And I said, well, how could you get mad and swear? How many times have you done it yourself? So there's so many times I think we hurt people, don't even know we hurt anyone. Forgiveness is what we were even speaking of, not only in a divorce situation, but even if you're married. If you could try that forgiveness now, and you might be going through a rough time, maybe it wouldn't get to that point for anyone who's listening right now that might be going through a hard time.
Sure.
It's just mainly pride that gets in the way. And sometimes even if you know that you're wrong, I love that look that I'm not saying that I am always apologizing or saying I'm sorry for things that I don't do. And you don't want to do that if it's wrong, but sometimes is the fight worth it? Pick your battle. And maybe we could stop before it gets to the point.
Sure.
Let's take one more quick break. And when we come back, we're going to wrap this up with AJ in the studio today, AJ Sabastenelli from AJ's Club Soda in Peckville. And we're talking all about forgiveness. And it's just a simple little word, but when it's done, the freedom that you can experience. And not only that, but how your life can move forward in a positive way with just that little simple word. And we'll talk more about that, and we'll wrap it up with AJ when we come back on 94.3 FM, The Talker. Mederi Clinicals, a unique skincare company, has a complete skincare line for men and women. From anti-aging to glycolic and even a clinical line for sensitive skin, Mederi Clinicals is for you. Their number one product? Forgiveness. It's the secret to younger looking and younger acting skin. You can experience the transformation with fewer wrinkles, firmer skin, and a more youthful, radiant complexion. Treat aging, sun damage, rosacea, and more with Forgiveness. Plus, buy one bottle of Forgiveness, get one lip-enhancing complex for free. Forgiveness. Apply it morning and night and keep forgiving and forgetting all through the day. Make a change with Mederi Clinicals. Balance, restore, look, and feel new. Mederi Clinicals, a complete skincare company for men and women. Call 866-646-3374 or check out MederiClinicals.com. MEDERI Clinicals.com. Welcome back to Make a Change on 94.3 FM The Talker. I'm Tom Jenkins. Your host, Terry Martin, is here. And our special guest, AJ Sabastenelli from AJ's Club Soda, an American grill. And you can find that at 1017 Main Street in Peckville. The show topic today is all about forgiveness and the freedom of it. Another reason we were just talking during the break that forgiveness, yes, it's good for yourself, but there's also backlash if you're not. Mm-hmm. You know, there's shrapnel that flies all over when you're not forgiving, and AJ was talking about that. If you could, sure.
The point we were talking about during the break, it affected my children detrimentally. The hatred for my ex-wife manifested itself, through my kids, because in hating their mother, pushed her away from me, and then treating her like a disease the whole entire time was confusing to them, because of course a child's mother is the most special thing in the world. And when a mother and father hate one another, or in a hate situation, that can definitely affect the kids. Now,
right.
As I was raising my kids, I tried to do the best I could with treating their mother fairly during the time of this 7-year span of hatred. But I really could have did a much better job if I had given up a little sooner. I take responsibility for the damage that I've done, and it's kind of the worst thing you could possibly do to a kid. And my oldest son is 18 years old now, going to college, doing well. But he has a beef with me. Not only does he have his own personal struggle growing up in this world, but he has this I would say hatred for his father caused by his father. And I take responsibility for that.
It takes a lot of strength to say this.
It takes a lot of strength to say that. And it's a difficult position to be in. So if there's any way to shorten the journey, and if there's anything that you've heard me say today to help anyone out there, just shorten it a month, a week, a year, anything, do it. Take a moment, gather yourself, figure out what you want to say to the person, and say it and get it over with. You're going to feel better. Trust me, you will. If anybody that I know is listening to this, they're going to say there's absolutely no way that that's AJ Sabastenelli on the microphone right now, compared to the guy he was. And it's a tremendously powerful thing you can do.
And not only for yourself, but especially if you have kids.
For your children.
Definitely for the kids. I mean, everybody wants to do the best for the kids, but sometimes our own pride, our own selfishness, our own ego get in the way. And just put it down. I mean, geez, if AJ can do this.
Yeah, well, life every day.
And I don't mean that as a shot, AJ.
No, I know, but you're looking at me, and then no one can see what I look like, and I know exactly what's going through your mind. Yes. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Exactly.
Seriously.
We don't have a book to.
No, there's no guide.
Parents,
there's
and
no
we
guide.
all do make mistakes. If our children could understand, we are human. And when they get to that point, hopefully they won't make the mistakes. And that's so good that you're.
It'll all repair itself. I'm hopeful that this situation will clear itself up. See, I've started it, so I can start the healing process, and I can start and my children see
you broke
us.
The curse.
I broke the curse, and my children see me around their mother now. My youngest looked at me and walked up to me and said, "Boy, Dad, this is really weird. You don't want to kill Mom anymore." And I'm like, "No, I don't. It's okay. I swear to God, this is not a trick. I'm not luring you in. This is not a bait. I'm not. It could be a good one though. If you really wanted to be a twisted person, you could really be evil.
Mm-hmm.
You know
well,
what I mean?
I see a glow around your head right now, so that's not you.
But no, it's not. No, but you could. You could. If you're not sincere about it, it's really not the right thing to do.
And you have to be sincere. And the best way, we say this often on this show, is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Mm-hmm. And for how many years, 7 for AJ, I can't tell you how many for my years, I was only looking at things one direction through one pair of glasses, and I had to change the way I looked at things in order to make the changes that I had to make for myself. I'm sure AJ did the same thing. And, twice so far in the show, AJ, you said, now I'm embarrassed. I'm still beating myself up a little bit. It was easy for you to forgive your ex-wife. How easy is it for you to forgive you?
I'm working on it.
Yeah, and that's what I always find to be the hardest part.
I'm working on it. It's getting better. It is.
Think about.
I really feel bad, man.
Of course. Well, okay, you break the law. You commit a crime, and the courts will punish you once. You do one crime, you get punished once. But we as human beings will continuously punish ourselves over and over and over again. And I'll tell you, AJ, what somebody told me, because I used to do the same thing. Put the bat down, man. Put the bat down. And Terry hit this twice. We're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. There's not a perfect person on this planet. A lot of us think we might be, but we're not. And if learn to forgive yourself. It's easy also to learn to forgive others, and which is where I want to go with this now. What is life like today for you, AJ?
Amazing. It's bright. It's sunny out all the time. My outlook is so much better, and it's given me a new direction, a new focus. It's really changed my life.
The sad part is anyone who will not change, because I think the older we get, the more we see that our every day and every week, is more valuable, because time is slipping by. So the best thing is, don't let any more time slip by.
Get it
Forgive.
done. Go after it.
Get it over with.
Pick somebody tomorrow that you hate and pick up the phone.
And forgive them. No matter what they say, no matter what they do.
Yep. And don't look for the apology. Don't look for anything. Just do it and see what happens.
If you were to give anybody who's sitting in a rage right now any direction other than just pick up the phone tomorrow, because I know if I was sitting in a rage, I wouldn't be forgiving. I'd be ripping them a new one. But anything that you could tell somebody to help them that are possibly sitting where you sat, how to start the steps to that healing, to that freedom.
Well, first of all, the first stage is severe, and there's no really talking to anybody. Stay close to that person. Make sure you're aware of them. Watch them, observe them, stay in their hip pocket for a short amount of time, and then little by little reassure them that it will get better. No matter how bad it stinks right now, it will get better. And I used to not like when someone would say that to me. How could you tell me this is going to get better?
Yeah.
It can't get better. Oh my God. Because you just think of everything that's going on. But it does. So a hug, a handshake, a pat on the back, a phone call, anything.
A smile and a good morning.
A smile and just the words.
I heard
it's going to be okay.
The anger is really fear. So if a person looks at the situation and they're really mad, what are they really afraid of? Are they really mad at the wife because for some reason she's leaving, or their husband? And so the anger comes out and makes it even worse. And if they could face the fear, and then maybe the anger could stop.
Usually it's when we're not getting something we want, or we have to do something we don't want to do. Right. That's where the fear comes in, is, well, I don't want to do that. Why? Well, because I don't, or I want that and I'm not going to get it. And that's where it all comes in. And sometimes
so the louder you yell, and the anger is trying to really cover up that you're really a tough one, or you're a tough guy, tough woman, and that's not the answer.
You know, AJ, there's one thing that I always found to be helpful, other than those stupid cliches like "this too shall pass."
Yeah, it's another good one.
Yeah, I dislike that one a lot as well.
Yes.
You know, we get into these positions, into these places in our lives where I refer to it as the dark tunnel. Yeah, there's no, I don't see any light at the end of it, even though everybody's telling me that there is. I don't see it. Can you help paint that picture of that light, that hope?
Well, sure. The inspiration for that, the vision to understand, that stems from my mother, and watching her live with the setback of my father's death, and never giving up, and never letting anybody know that either was part of it. Now, I think I did a pretty good job hiding it from everybody for those 7 years, although I would voice it occasionally. But during the dark period of my time, when I felt like there was no way out of this and there was no hope whatsoever, somehow I would just think of my mom and think, well, how did she do it? What would she do? What did my grandmother do when my grandfather died? What did my great-grandfather do when his wife died and left behind 7 children? The story of my family is, there's a lot of tragedy when it comes to the strength of the family. And so that's
the
where
influence a mother has.
Yes, and that's where I have my... where I put women on a high pedestal, and it's hard for other women to be part of my life, because I have these tough, unbelievable examples of like guts. And so with that said, that's what kept me going. But there was I could not fail. I would not allow myself to fail. There's so much riding on this. This was my shot. This was my one shot. And so, as I said earlier, you just need to continue to just step forward, as incrementally as that might be.
Even when they're so weak.
Even when you're weak and you're tired and you're depressed and you don't want to get up, and it's just, I'd rather just sleep another 4 hours. No. And again, being surrounded by tremendous friends and family was also what helped me do it. But it builds quickly, and you can do it. You can accomplish it. It'll happen for you. And the point is never to give up. And again, the result of doing nothing is always going to be nothing. So that point of that easy mathematical equation says it all. You must go on, and I chose to do that, and thank God I did, because I was so close to letting this whole thing go. I could never, in my wildest dreams, if I let it go, as I said earlier, I celebrated my 10-year anniversary yesterday at my restaurant. That would be gone. I don't know where I would be right now. I question whether I'd be alive, because I would have just spun out of control.
And imploded.
And beat myself up physically, mentally. Drugs, alcohol, anger, been in jail, murdered somebody. Yes.
Oh.
It was at that point. It was at a breaking point. But
Well, I'm so glad you didn't.
well, thanks.
Even though I just met you a little while ago, I'm very grateful you didn't, and very grateful that you came on the show today to talk about this and hopefully give some hope.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
This is Make a Change with your host, Terry Martin. I am Tom Jenkins. Our special guest today was AJ Sabastenelli. Go eat at his place. Just go to experience it. It's AJ's Club Soda and American Grill. You can find him at 1017 Main Street in Peck. And, of course, if you have any questions for Terry, give her a shout at 866-646-3374. This is Make a Change. Thank you so much for listening on 94.3 FM, The Talker.